Ben. So, do you want to go ahead and start us off? What's your first Pokemon here?
My first Pokemon, they're not in any particular order, but I'll tell you pretty much how excited I am about each one. My first one, the Water Ghost type Frillish.
Oh.
Let me explain Frillish. Frillish starts off with a defense of 50, so after Eviolite that becomes 75, which is 5 points better than Jellicent, which is not great. Special defense, though, is from 85 to 128. Solid increase, and it's also 23 points better than its evolution Jellicent. So you gain on both defenses. It pairs this with a special attack of 85, so it's an okay special attack. Abilities-wise, it gets Water Absorb, which is interesting. It does counter Dracovish well, because you can switch in, obviously, to those. It also gets Curse Body and Damp, which are slightly more situational, but also very good. But where Frillish really shines is in its moves. It gets a very wide array of support moves. It gets Recover, Destiny Bond, Will-O-Wisp, Imprison, Pain Split, and those are its support moves. Oh, and also Icy Wind, if I hadn't mentioned that one. And then it also gets Hex to pair with that, so you can do Hex Will-O-Wisp. It also gets access to coverage in the form of Dazzling Beam and Energy Ball. So it has a very diverse moveset. You could play it more support or more aggressively. Special attack of 85 is definitely usable. That's why Frillish is on here. It's my first one. What's your first one?
Yeah, so Frillish. Yeah, I didn't even think about how... I don't know. I just assumed that it was pretty frail, but... 5 points more than Jellicent. That's not bad. Alright, so my number 5 is Celio, Spheal's evolution, the pre-evolution to Walrein.
I looked at him.
You did?
I did, yes.
Alright, so let me go over Celio here. So Celio, he's got Eviolite, and he gets access to some pretty nice abilities. He gets Thick Fat and Ice Body, both of which are pretty good for a bulky Pokemon, but more, I'm going to focus more on Thick Fat this time. So Thick Fat, on top of Eviolite, makes him take less damage from fire moves, which he's already neutral on because of his water type, and ice moves, which he already resists. So he just walls those two types even more. And on top of that, because of the Eviolite, he's able to deal with his weaknesses more. He has a base defense of 70, meaning that he's going to be getting a, what is that, a 115? 115?
5?
Oh, yeah, 105. He's going to be... And he has 70 defense and special defense, so he's going to be getting 105 base in both defenses, meaning that he has some relatively good bulk. And even on top of that, his base special attack stat is 75, so you can run him with a few, like, Surf or Ice Beam, and he can still hit pretty hard. More in particular, though, you can also run a supportive Celio with this. The set I have in front of me is it's got Yawn, I don't really have a set in front of me, but I just have a list of support moves it has. We got Yawn, Toxic, and Roar are the three mentionable ones. All of which are pretty good on a bulky Pokemon. For example, if you get Rocks up, and then you just have a bulky Celio that can just spam Roar, there's not much they can do about it, especially considering with Thick Fat, if they switch into if you roar them into a fire or ice type, they're really not going to be doing anything against him. So that's why Celio's my number 5. I think that he's more suited for support more than anything with that.
Yeah, that's solid. I like that a lot. So my fourth one is another one from Gen 5.
Oh.
In this case, it is Clang.
Braden, if you're listening to this.
That's right. So Clang is obviously the pre-evolution to Kling. Base defense is 95, which increases to about 143, and that's a 28% increase over Kling, which is quite a lot. Even better is a special defense, which goes from 85 to 128, and that's a 43-point increase over Kling.
Wow.
You get about 80 more defense points across the board. You balance that with attack of 80 and a special attack of 70, which are both okay. They're not great, but it makes it so you can run it physical or special and be unpredictable. And a speed of 50, which means it can function in Trick Room. Ability-wise, it gets access to plus and minus, which are both very, very situational. You're not going to use those. But it also gets Clear Body, which is probably the best of them. and prevents other Pokemon's moves or abilities from lowering stats. You're likely going to run this relatively aggressively. With high defenses, but I'll probably invest into the attack and special attack some. You could even run it mixed if you really wanted to. It gets Discharge and Volt Switch, good electric type moves coming out of a steel type. There's a bit of a surprise factor there. Power Gem is a very solid special rock type move. Ash Cannon is obviously Stab Steel. And then you can also mix it up a bit with Ally Switch, which is a move that I did not expect to get at all. And then also
that's
Rising
really weird.
Voltage.
I wonder why that is. Is it because of like clock gears and a clock shifting or something?
I guess so. Yeah, it's wild, but I think it's good.
That's
it's
really
a steel
strange.
Type. Yeah, it's a steel type. It's going to have a lot of resistances as long as you can stay out of the way of ground and fire. And it's going to be able to do mixed special and physical attacking, which is something that not many people can do, but also with Ally Switch. So that's why Clang is on there.
That's a really solid pick.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So next up on mine, mine are in order. I don't know if I mentioned that. Number 4, we have a Gen 8 Pokemon on here, actually.
Ooh.
It's a Pokemon that I see quite a lot in VGC, just not like the second stage of it. We got Carkol. Normally you see a lot of Colossals in doubles with a weakness policy steam engine.
Yeah,
so I was thinking about that, and so what if I ran a Carkol with Eviolite steam engine, so it took, less damage from the water. Now, at first I thought this would just kind of be gimmicky, and admittedly it's not super great, but it ended up being a lot better than I thought it would, so let me go over it real quick. We got Eviolite Carkol. Carkol has already incredible defense stats. It's got base 90 regular defense and base 70 special defense.
Wow, that's really good.
Like with running Eviolite on it, you're getting 135 defense and 105 special defense, which is ridiculous.
That's insane. That
will help it take a weaker, I don't know if it'll survive something like a Hydro Pump, but it'll definitely survive, something like a Surf, and this is without a plus special defense nature, which is what I would opt for in this scenario. So let's just say, you're running your Carkol and you go up against a Inteleon, and it snipe shots you. And it normally, since it's quad effective, it would probably drain you till you're almost dead. But now you're at, let's say, 25% health because you had Eviolite. Well, now you got access to some pretty good stuff. You have Body Press, which is buffed thanks to his Eviolite, which is really good. So he has a defense-based move, a move that's power is based on his defense while he's having 135 base defense. If you think that you'll be safe for a turn, you can set up Stealth Rock. If you want to go for a stab move, you get access to Flare Blitz and Rock Blast. Both are which are really powerful moves.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, this really just is entirely based upon the fact that Steam Engine is it's a really good ability, but Carkol especially would normally have a lot of trouble tanking something like that. But thanks to Eviolite, he's able to now, and he gets some pretty good options. And his defense is similar to Colossal, but he's a little higher.
That's great, yeah.
Yeah.
Solid pick.
Thank you.
So I'm moving now into what I feel like are pretty clearly my top 3, although they're in no particular order. The first one of these is for a Gen 1 Mon.
Oh.
And the keyword I'd say would be flexibility, and that Pokemon is Gloom. I think Gloom is in a really ideal position because it was one of those Gen 1 Mons was designed as sort of a final evolution and then got another evolution later on in a later gen.
Those are the really good ones.
Its stats are already really good. It has a base defense of 70, which becomes 105 after Eviolite, which is 20 more than Vileplume. And special defense is not quite as... Oh, no, it's better, actually. 75, increasing to about 113, which is 23 more Gloom. So you're sitting at... Or than Vileplume, sorry. So you're sitting at both defenses above 100, which is great. Special attack is 85, which is, again, going to be good enough to pick up a lot of things. But I think the most interesting thing is the speed of 40. It's slow enough to where it'll function fine in Trick Room. But it also gets the ability Chlorophyll, which means in Sun, it's going to be a lot faster to where it's going to be able to be aggressive. And it gets the moves to play both those roles as well. So if you're going to run it a support way, maybe in Trick Room slowly, gets Slate Powder, Toxic, Moonblast, Leech Seed, and Strength Sap, which is a phenomenal array of support moves. And also Grassy Terrain. And then if you're going to run it offensively, it's going to get Moonblast and Dazzling Gleam. So you have coverage in the form of the Fairy type moves. Solar Beam, Sludge Bomb, and then obviously all of those. So again, it could be both. It can be, Trick Room support, Trick Room attack, or it could be fast support or fast attack. So it's a number of different ways you can run it. I think it's really, really good across the board.
That is,
and again, both defenses above 100. So that's Gloom.
That is ridiculous.
And then one of those Gen 1 mons.
You have convinced me there. So for number 3, we got a, you know how much I love my support Pokemon. We have a Mr. Mime. We have a Galarian Mr. Mime.
Ooh, okay.
Now, this set is entirely based around screens.
Fun.
So what it is, the idea is, you got your Eviolite Mr. Mime, right? And it's gonna have access to some good moves. It's got Reflect and Light Screen for screen setup. But it's the standout in this set is its ability being Screen Cleaner, which gets rid of all of the screens in the field, including yours, which is why he has the screen moves, so he can set them up after he comes out. So the ideal setting for this is, let's say, you run up against a Hail team, and they're setting up Aura Veil. Well, Gigantamax Lapras, I've seen that mon a lot.
Gigantamax Lapras is really good.
Well, this bad boy just shuts down Gigantamax Lapras because he resists whatever its signature move after Gigantamaxing is called. And he also is able to get rid of the Aura Veil that it sets up as soon as he switches in. So let's just play into the whole he's made for countering a Hail team. Let's give him Blizzard to have that guaranteed hit against a Hail team. So he will be able to hit no matter what. It might not be doing that much, because if they're running a Hail team, they'll probably have quite a few Ice types, but that's still a really good stab move to run. And even if you don't want to do that, you get access to Expanding Force, which is a move that I've really expressed that I think that it's a really very good move.
Sure.
And then furthermore, you can give it Foul Play if there's a really threatening physical attacker on the opposing team, because at that point, it doesn't really matter. As for its defensive stats, Mr. Mime, he doesn't have as good of a physical defense stat as any of the other mons we've mentioned so far. It's only got base 65 defense. Which can be a problem, especially considering it's weak to Rock and Fighting, which are both pretty common types. You got your Tyrannotars, Escadrille, Steel type, that's all physical. But the special defense is a whopping 90, which means it'll get 135 special defense, which is pretty good. And a lot of Hail Team Pokemon are special attackers. This Pokemon is specifically for a niche, but I do feel like it's a common enough niche to where you can make it counterplay if you know what you're going up against.
Yeah. That's solid. I like that one a lot.
It's probably my most gimmicky one, but I feel like, even outside of a Hail Team, the fact that you can get rid of an enemy screen, especially since Grimmsnarl gets so much play anymore.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay. This one surprised me because its evolution has seen play in VGC at a high level.
Can I make a few guesses on what this is?
Yes, I'll give you some guesses.
All right, so you did give me some hints before we started recording this that it was its defense was the same, and then it was in an awkward speed tier after re-evolving, or after evolving.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Pupitar.
Close, you're close. You got the first letter right. It's actually Piloswine.
Oh.
So Piloswine has defensive 80, special defensive 60. Swine has those exact same defense stats. When it evolves, it gains no defense, which means you get 120 in defense and 90 in special defense. That's 40 and 30 gain, 70 defensive point gain with Eviolite, which is insane. the top of that, you have 100 HP and 100 attack. So you're going to be hitting hard, and you have the Bork to survive a lot of stuff. Its speed is 50, which again, you can slow that down, stick it in Trick Room, and it'll be fine. Mammoth Swine speed is 80, which is not fast enough to really compete with the top speedy threats like, Lando T, Dracovish, Kartana. It's an awkward speed error.
Yeah, totally.
Ability-wise, the best one is Thick Fat, just like you mentioned on CeeLo. I won't reiterate that.
I believe that CeeLo and Piloswine also share the fact that they both get Oblivious, don't they?
Yes, they do. And also, Oblivious is good, and then also Snow Cloak, which if you want to run something that's, a bit strange, you can run Snow Cloak and Hail and try to mess with evasion. Moveset-wise, there's a couple of standout. It gets Ice Shard for that priority stab move. It hasn't been as good because of Psychic Terrain and stuff. Still solid, I think. Icy Wind if you want to control speed. Earthquake is solid. It gets both Light Screen and Reflect. If you want to run it support, I personally wouldn't recommend that. I'd go pretty hard attacking. But if you want to mix it up, you have that as an option. Superpower is Fighting type coverage. It's going to match you up really well against Glastrier. And Metagross, to an extent, Earthquake is better against Metagross. Horsepower is another stab, single target ground type move this time. Stone Edge, high critical hit rate, coverage rock type. The most interesting one though is Curse, which means you can slow it down in Trick Room and get plus defense and plus attack. So I think you could run this with Curse, Protect, Earthquake, and Icicle Crash, which is another move, and I think you'd be really, really well off. And then also Thick Fat or Snow Cloak. This one I really, really like because it's all defensive gain. 100 attack, 100 HP, and a speed slow enough to where it can function in Trick Room. I think it's really, really good.
That is a very good pick. I didn't even think of Piloswine. All right, so I'm also jumping on the Gen 5 train here.
Nice.
This is actually the only Gen 5 mon on my list, but we got Gothorita.
Oh yeah.
Gothita's evolution, the pre-evolution to Gothitelle. And I think the main combo that really makes this one stand out is Shadow Tag, Calm Mind. So, so let's just say hypothetically you pick Gothorita as your lead, and your opponent has something that just isn't fit to deal with it at all. You can it can't switch out due to Calm Mind, and you can just start stacking up, not Calm Mind, Shadow Tag. And you can just start stacking up your Calm Minds as a result.
Yep.
And not a lot of people realize this, but Gothorita actually has some pretty good base defenses. It's got base 70 defense and base 85 special defense. Yeah. Which, that's what? 105 to physical defense, which isn't as important since you're not going to be getting a lot of physical dark types, especially not in this meta. But it also gets the I forgot to do the math. Over 120 special defense, which is really important considering you're going to be running into, a lot of dark pulses, a lot of your shadow balls.
Oh.
So, and then on top of that, let's just say the opponent, they're tagged in, they can't really hurt you. They want to do something like toxic you. Well, that's when you get Magic Coat. And it just lets you bounce it right back to prevent them from doing anything. And if you don't want to be risky and you kind of know they'll go for it again, even if you do bounce it back, that's when you use Substitute, and you just use that to stack up your Calm Minds, because the more you have, the more difficult it will be for them to break the Substitute. And as for attacks, once you're that high in special attack, pretty much anything will work. So, honorable mentions, we got Psychic. That's a good trusty option. It's always good.
Definitely. Stab.
As well as Psyshock, it's alternative. Or if you really want to go crazy, you have access to Expanding Force, which is really good, especially if you're doing this in doubles with a Psychic Terrain user. It'll be a really killer combo, especially, if you get 2 or 3 Calm Minds set up under Substitute.
Yeah, that's really good. I've always liked Gothorita and Shadow Tag in general, so
yeah,
it's amazing that it's on there.
Yeah, I was pretty proud of that one.
That's a solid one for sure. So my last one, definitely one of my top ones, actually shares a lot of similarities with both Piloswine and Gloom. The fact that its evolution gets a lot of play in VGC, or at least it did back in Sun and Moon, and it's a Gen 1 Mon. Magneton is my last one.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it's not as underrated as some of the other ones, but I still have not seen it very much. Defense is going to go from 95, which is already very good, to 143. That's physical defense. 28 increase over Magnezone. A lot of the types that it's going to get hit by, specifically ground, physical, Earthquake, it's going to be able to take slightly better. Still probably not great, but it'll be an improvement. Special defense goes from 70 to 105, which is 50 more than Magnezone. That's definitely solid. Anything above 100 is good.
Totally.
The thing that surprised me the most, though, is that its special attack is 120, which is ridiculous.
Wow.
So that's more special attack than a lot of the stuff. It's more special attack than like Feeny, more special attack than Galar, Moltres.
That's only a 10-point difference than Magnezone, and you get all that defense.
Exactly, which is why I think this is so good.
I think that I would argue that that's better than Magnezone.
Yeah, I think it is, which is why I was really excited about it. Speed-wise, it has a speed of 70, which is
it's faster.
Awkward. Yeah, especially since its ability is analytic, which means its moves get an increase in power if it moves last. A bit difficult to play, but if you can make it work, I think it'll be really good. It also gets, if you don't want to use analytic, you get sturdy, which is very situational and likely not going to be very good. Also magnet pull, which prevents Steel type Pokemon from switching, which is potentially interesting because Metagross is really good right now. Kartana,
Escadrille.
See the Excadrill, Stakataka, Celesteela, Tran. There's a number of things that it checks with that ability.
That's
So it has a good slew of abilities. Moves-wise, it's not phenomenal. It does get good coverage and good support. Electric Terrain, Thunder Wave if you want to control speed. Flash Cannon, Discharge. It gets both Reflect and Light Screen, but then also it gets Electro Web, which I think is really interesting. It's a stab move, special, slows speed. So there's a number of ways you could work with him. I think the Magnet Pull is an underrated ability because it's one that I completely forgot about. And a lot of teams have Steel types. It matches up well against a lot of stuff that's good in the 2020 meta. It's going to wall off Feeny. It's going to wall Regieleki. Urshifu, it'll be okay against. Glastrier will be good. Wall Metagross, wall Kartana. So it's just gonna stick around for a long time, and just be in general annoying with paralysis and Electro Web and the screens. So Magneton, I think it's a bit of a mix between a support and attack guy, but I think it does both really well.
Yeah, but it's a perfect balance, though. That's the thing.
Exactly. So that's why that was the one I found first, and I think the one I'm maybe most other than maybe Piloswine. So that's my 5. Again, that's Magneton in no order: Magneton, Clang, Frillish, Piloswine, and Gloom.
All right. Now, unlike Ben, my number 1 pick is actually an underrated Pokemon. I'm joking.
Yeah, no, you're good.
Yeah, alright, so I honestly feel like this Pokemon is very, very slept on for Eviolite. Like, I didn't even think about it until now, but this is ridiculous. So, for my number 1, we have the second stage of a pseudo-legendary. The Gen 6 pseudo-legendary. We have Sliggoo.
Oh. I looked at Sliggoo. Let me tell you this. I looked at him, and I didn't decide to go with him, but I'm interested to hear what you have to say.
Alright, so let's just start with his abilities, and oh my god, Sliggoo's 3 abilities are all perfect for this. We'll start off with the least gimmicky and work our way to the one that I would honestly build a set around just because I think it's so good. Because we'll get into it, but starting off, we have its hidden ability, Gooey, which is the one that sees the most play on Goodra. And this is just already really good because whenever Sliggoo gets hit by a physical move, it lowers the opponent's speed by 1. Sliggoo's not the fastest thing ever. It only has a base speed of 60, but if they get hit by, a couple gooey attacks, then Sliggoo's going to be able to outspeed them, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have Sap Sipper, which raises Sliggoo's attack by 1 when it's hit by a grass-type move, and it gives it immunity. The attack boost isn't really that good. I'm more a fan of the fact that by giving it this, you can just let it wall grass types, even more so than
Yeah.
usual. Bulu, I'm sure he's going to get a lot of play this season. Like you said, Kartana. Rillaboom. Rillaboom sees...
Very good, yes.
Everyone uses Rillaboom, Grassy Surge, the Grass Glide move or whatever. And then my personal pick for what I think is the best ability it has is Hydration. And Hydration is probably what I would argue to be one of the most underrated abilities of all time. Do you know what this ability does, Ben?
So Hydration, I think it either heals a small bit of HP or cures status conditions in rain.
It cures status conditions at the end of turn if rain is active. And let me tell you something. If you have Hydration and you have a Rest, you can get a full HP restore every turn. I ran a Lapras with that set back in 2018 during that VGC season, and it was very good because you would just be able to rest at the end of every turn or every other turn, and you could just be back at full HP.
That's insane, wow.
In terms of other notable moves, you have Curse, which, as you mentioned on Piloswine, is ridiculous because you're raising your defense, which in Sliggoo's case is perfect because its defense is lower than its special defense. It only has a base 53 special defense, which, while boosted by Eviolite, is still not the most remarkable thing ever. And if you want to use the GUI set, Curse is going to have to be a necessity because that way you can raise your defense. You'll also be raising your attack, which you can run it physical. It does have 75 base attack, which, while not great, is still serviceable.
Definitely.
The set I personally wrote down here, though, it's based on Hydration. We got Rain Dance, we got Rest, and then we have Sludge Wave and Dragon Pulse. It gets access to Sludge Wave, which just checks fairies.
Yeah, that is really good.
Fairy, if say a Sylveon switches into a Sludge Wave, they'll be dead within the next turn because you'll be able to wall a Moonblast or something because you have Eviolite, and even if you don't, you can just rest, get it back. Odds are they'll only have 1 or 2 fairy types on their team. So after you get rid of the 1 or 2, you can just rest and act like it never even happened.
That's right.
Yeah, so Sliggoo, I just think that Sliggoo in some areas, I would argue, is even better than Goodra.
Ooh, wow, okay.
Because while with Goodra, all you see is the GUI set. You see GUI,
right.
Draco Meteor, Specs, or Assault Vest. Which, while that is a very good set, if you want a more defensive-focused Pokemon, I think that Sliggoo is definitely better. Because it gets access to... It can stall with Hydration Rest. It can wall Bulu and everyone with Sap Sipper. And then it can also just lower speed while taking hits with GUI.
I agree. That's a solid set all around.
I was very proud of myself for finding it. Honorable mention goes to Komao. I originally had him on my top 5, but I could not for the life of me remember why he was on the list. So
I had Komao. I'll toss in my honorable mention for 2 guys, both of them slightly interesting. One of them is a Trapinch, which isn't even... It's a basic Pokemon. It's 100 base attack, and also Arena Trap, which is pretty much what makes it good. Same thing as Shadow Tag. Also gets Sheer Force, so you can mess with that. 10 base speed, so you're going to stick it in Trick Room. Its defenses are pretty average. They're both 45, so it's not going to be super bulky, but it's going to have 100 attack and function well in Trick Room.
Yeah.
That's one of my honorable mentions. It's a bit more iffy than some of my other ones. And then my other one is Swablu, which I think the good thing about Swablu is it gets Cloud 9, which eliminates the effect of weather, and weather is ridiculously good this meta.
Yes.
Sand and rain and sun. That is a plus. And its defenses its defense goes to 90 from 60, and its special defense goes from 75 to about 100 something, 130 something. So it's pretty bulky. Moveset wise, it's not great. It gets Yeah, it's not great. It gets Ground, which is interesting. Sing, Vanguard, and Perish Song, along with um, both Rain Dance and Sunny Day, which are not going to use because of the weather. Power Swap, and that's pretty much that's it. Again, both of those honorable mentions. I don't think they're nearly as good as some of the other ones on here. A's it also gets, so you can reset stats. So it's pretty supportish, but it does cancel out weather, which I think sort of makes it inherently good. So those are my two honorable mentions.
Yeah. So leave a comment telling us what you think that your most, which of these sets is the best, or if you have a different Pokemon that you think is underrated, let us know why in the comments below. We'd love to hear it.
Yep. See ya.
Yeah. And let me tell you something. If you have hydration and you have a rest, you can get a full HP restore every turn. I ran a Lapras with that set back in 2018 during that VGC season, and it was very good because you would just be able to rest at the end of every turn or every other turn, and you could just be back at full HP.
Insane. Wow.
In terms of other notable moves, you have Curse, which, as you mentioned on Piloswine, is ridiculous because you're raising your defense, which in Sliggoo's case is perfect because its defense is lower than its special defense. It only has a base 53 special defense, which, while boosted by Eviolite, is still not the most remarkable thing ever. And if you want to use the GUI set, Curse is going to have to be a necessity because that way you can raise your defense. You'll also be raising your attack, which you can run it physical. It does have 75 base attack, which, while not great, is still serviceable.
Definitely.
The set I personally wrote down here, though, it's based on Hydration. We got Rain Dance, we got Rest, and then we have Sludge Wave and Dragon Pulse. It gets access to Sludge Wave, which just checks fairies.
Yeah, that is really good.
If say a Sylveon switches into a Sludge Wave, they'll be dead within the next turn because you'll be able to wall a Moonblast or something because you have Eviolite, and even if you don't, you can just rest, get it back. Odds are they'll only have 1 or 2 fairy types on their team. So after you get rid of the 1 or 2, you can just rest and act like it never even happened.
That's right.
Yeah, so Sliggoo, I just think that Sliggoo in some areas, I would argue, is even better than Goodra.
Ooh, wow, okay.
Because while with Goodra, all you see is the GUI set. You see GUI,
right.
Draco Meteor, Specs, or Assault Vest. Which, while that is a very good set, if you want a more defensive-focused Pokemon, I think that Sliggoo is definitely better. Because it gets access to... It can stall with Hydration Rest. It can wall Bulu and everyone with Sap Sipper. And then it can also just lower speed while taking hits with GUI.
I agree. That's a solid set all around.
I was very proud of myself for finding it. Honorable mention goes to Komao. I originally had him on my top 5, but I could not for the life of me remember why he was on the list. So
I agree. I had Komao. I'll toss in my honorable mention for 2 guys, both of them slightly interesting. One of them is a Trapinch, which isn't even... It's a basic Pokemon. It's 100 base attack, and also Arena Trap, which is pretty much what makes it good. Same thing as Shadow Tag. Also gets Sheer Force, so you can mess with that. 10 base speed, so you're going to stick it in Trick Room. Its defenses are pretty average. They're both 45, so it's not going to be super bulky, but it's going to have 100 attack and function well in Trick Room.
Yeah.
That's one of my honorable mentions. It's a bit more iffy than some of my other ones. And then my other one is Swablu, which I think the good thing about Swablu is it gets Cloud 9, which eliminates the effect of weather, and weather is ridiculously good this meta.
Yes.
Sand and rain and sun. That is a plus. And its defenses go. Its defense goes to 90 from 60, and its special defense goes from 75 to about 100 something, 130 something. So it's pretty bulky. Moveset wise, it's not great. It gets it's not great. It gets Ground, which is interesting. Sing, Vanguard, and Perish Song, along with both Rain Dance and Sunny Day, which are not going to use because of the weather. Power Swap, and that's pretty much it. Again, both of those honorable mentions. I don't think they're nearly as good as some of the other ones on here. A's it also gets, so you can reset stats. So it's pretty supportish, but it does cancel out weather, which I think sort of makes it inherently good. So those are my 2 honorable mentions.
Yeah. So leave a comment telling us what you think that your most, which of these sets is the best, or if you have a different Pokemon that you think is underrated, let us know why in the comments below. We'd love to hear it.
Yep. See ya.
Yeah.